Hello, Guiding Lights listeners. Welcome back to the Table Talk Show with me, Joshua Kangley. And I got a great show for you today. I was able to have a great conversation with Holly Hoffman, survivor contestant, author, professional speaker, and leadership coach. And I can't tell you how excited I was to have her on the show because I'm such a huge fan of the show Survivor. And being from South Dakota, I was, of course, rooting for Holly when she was in Survivor Nicaragua. And I'm just super excited because not only did Holly come onto my show, but she also co-wrote a book with me called Mind Shift 2022. This book features amazing authors, including Holly. And if you want to check that out, you're going to love it. It's got some great stories in it. There's going to be a link for you in the podcast description to check it out. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoy today's show. This is Table Talks, and this is my conversation with Holly Hoffman. Holly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know what an honor it is. Being a huge Survivor fan, coming from South Dakota, it's a real honor for me to have you on the show. So thank you so much for taking the time. And I know you're so busy out there. You've been doing a lot of tours, a lot of presentations and programs lately. So again, just thank you for spending some time with me today. Super excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Well, yes, I have definitely been on the road, trying to drive as much as I possibly can. Last week, I put on 2,300 miles in 6 days. So it was crazy. Yeah, I did 5 programs, went from Minneapolis to Indiana to Illinois, back to Indiana, back home. So, but you know what? It's all worth it. It's all about the people.
And you're driving then. You try to drive to those areas.
I try to drive as much as I possibly can because the flights scare me.
Yes.
There's been a couple of speakers that I've talked to that they get to the airport and their flights are canceled and you have to get there. So
Yes.
if it's within driving distance, I definitely do it. Plus, I can take my Survivor torch.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And you're right. I've heard some real crazy stories about flights right now. So
Yes.
it's really cool that you're out there driving to your engagement. So that's really cool. Let's go back to Survivor Nicaragua, which of course is the season you were on. And like I said, I'm a huge Survivor fan. I watch this with my mom all the time. And I watch it with my wife now. Your season was an interesting season for me because they split up the young and the old. I don't know how they necessarily determined that, but they did that. And then later on, they swapped. And so for me, it was a really interesting season to watch, the dynamics, the gameplay of it all. And you ended up being Final Four.
Yes, I was absolutely shocked. I have to be very honest with you. I was a Survivor watcher. And when I would sit at home, I thought, this is so fake. You know, they do not make these people do this. And then I got out there and I went, this is not fake. And it is the absolute real deal. And that started playing with my mind a little bit. And remember on day 5, I wanted to quit.
Yes.
And yes, the whole, I think the swap also saved me because I was struggling a little bit fitting in with my original tribe. And on day 12, when we did the swap, I got in with some young kids and I was able to make an alliance with them. And I also think that helped with I coached swimming for 17 years.
Yes, you did.
Before I went on Survivor and I started the speaking tour and so forth. And I think that helped me really connect with those young kids. Yes. And there I was. And, you know, it just kind of shows you in life that we all have struggles and we all have challenges, but it's really how we look at them and how we move forward and how we continue. Some things we just can't control. And that's what I needed to get in my head that, hey, I'm out here. I need to do this. I need to make the best of it. And yes, I did make the Final Four. So I was a little shocked.
Yeah. You know, I wasn't really shocked because it was fun watching you. And you're so right. You're in that environment where you can't control a lot, but you were able to, because it was rough in the go. And I think, wasn't there a couple that did quit or wanted to quit or thought about quitting too?
Yes, there were 2 young gals that quit, and they only had 11 days left.
Oh.
And they just decided they absolutely could not do it. And I actually was in an alliance with one of them. And I just kept thinking, you can't quit, you can't quit. And everybody else was saying, let him quit. It gives us a better chance. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. And so it was very hard. And I do think after talking to them after the show was over, they do have some regrets about quitting. Because one of them, we were going to vote off the next tribal council. She was gone. And I think also they worked together and they were like, if you quit, I'll quit. I don't want to be the only one to quit. But it was rough. One of them was losing her hair. She was very sick. And that's just something that you have to deal with when you play the game of Survivor, things that you don't expect.
But you took it on, and kudos to you for sticking it out, because when you did, you really took that role on. Like you said, you were a swim coach before all this, and you really took that on. And I think that played well to what you were doing, and you made a strong run of it. Like I think you were pretty close to had a few things went a different way. I could have definitely seen you final three, maybe even winner probably. So really great run.
I didn't think Chase was going to vote for me at the end when it was the four of us. I thought it was going to be a tie. And when he did, I was like, why did you vote for me? And he said, because they told me if I would take you to the final three, you'd win. If I didn't, they said he would win. And Chase lost by one vote. Oh. So, but you know what? It wasn't really even about winning when I auditioned. It was really to see if I could do this, if I could challenge myself, how far I could make it. And it is such a mental game. The paranoia is unbelievable.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can definitely imagine. So again, you stuck it out. Kudos to you. And what you said, it's not about winning. And really, you kind of won because you survived, you thrived, and you were able to really take some experience from that. And I think if you would have quit, you may have had some regret too on that.
So I definitely would have. It really made me, going back, you play the game, and then you vote and then you leave and you don't know who won. Oh. So then you go home and you watch it again, and it's almost like you play it all over again. You go through all the emotions. And as I watched myself, crying on national television, and all I could think about was, the strength that you have to have to pull yourself together is huge. Yeah,
absolutely. And in the beginning, like I said, they divided the tribes up, and your tribe had fire within I think 30 minutes. I mean, you got fire right away.
Yeah, we did.
Of course, the younger tribe, they were a little more lax and a little more laid back. So there's dynamics there. But when they swapped, what was a surprising thing, or what did you maybe take away from the younger tribe that maybe surprised you or you learned from?
The acceptance, that they connected with me right away. I actually, and they aired this, I said, hey, I'm on a ranch, and we hunt pheasants, and we were able to connect with that. Benry was from Colorado. I had relatives from Colorado. Wow. Chase was really into hunting. Who else did I pick? Alina reminded me of my daughters, and I told her that. So I really had to make the connection of the personal things, the interest that they had as well as I had. And I really think that definitely made a connection. And just accepting them, and saying, hey, we're really glad you're over here and so forth. So I really think that saved my game. When I picked that blue rock to become the captain, I have to be honest with you, I was totally shocked because I never win anything. I mean, I don't even win a raffle. And so, so when I picked that, I'm like, what? So I just knew that was kind of a sign. Thank you for not quitting, continue and dig deep and continue to go.
That point where at your lowest in the game, what was the shift that took you from considering quitting and then flipping that? What was that mindset shift there for you?
It was definitely talking to Jimmy Johnson. And I knew that I had to reach out for someone. And sometimes when we have our setbacks in life, we think we can do it all on our own. We can't. You need to go talk to someone. You need to ask someone for help. And I think right now with mental illness as high as it is, everybody needs to realize that it's okay not to be okay. I just did a program on that in Indiana and Huntington. And it was like, it's the truth. We're not all okay. And you can look on social media and everybody looks like they have a perfect life. And you know what? We don't. It's just it's just the part of life. We all struggle with something. And I knew in the game I had to reach out to someone. And sitting down on that log and talking to Jimmy Johnson and crying, letting my emotions out, telling him exactly how I felt. And his words really inspired me when he said, Holly, we need you. We really, really need you. That just hit me. Wow. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And it was totally Jimmy Johnson that helped me.
Wow, that's so cool. And and like you said, today, right now, mental health is an issue. The times that we kind of live in right now are a little bit, can be uncertain and can be a little bit scary. So coming from someone like you who not only survived but thrived in the game of Survivor, what can you offer to people now who might be thinking they have to always be okay? All this pressure to always be okay. What would you tell them? What would your message to them be?
To just admit to yourself that we're not okay. We all have challenges. We all face obstacles, and you just have to continue to go forward. It really is how you look at those setbacks and how you continue to move forward. I would have to say the biggest advice that I can give to someone is reaching out. Reach out for help. If you're not okay, it's okay to admit it. Like I said, social media, I love social media, and you know that. I'm on social media a lot. But at the same time, I've even myself had to back off a little bit because I started comparing myself to other people. I started comparing myself to, oh my gosh, this speaker is doing more work than I am. And I'm like, no, it's about me. It's about what is best for me. And it's not always about keeping up. So don't be afraid to say, you know what, I need help. And I think right now, that's the biggest thing.
Yes, I think you're right. And that's an important message. Like you mentioned, social media, you're all over social media, of course. And I see you're so busy. What is ringing? Like, what do you see as really resonating with people that you go and speak to, your programs, your presentations? What's really resonating with them? What are they yearning for? Is it this message about it's okay to be not okay? Or what are you seeing out there? Someone who's been, I think you've been in all the states, haven't you? I mean, you've been everywhere.
3 left.
Oh, wow.
I actually had 6 left. I had Delaware, North Carolina, and Hawaii, but I have speeches booked in all 3 of those states, so I'm good there.
Oh, nice.
I have South Carolina, Alaska, and New Hampshire left. So if anyone is listening to this from South Carolina, Alaska, or New Hampshire, and I did New Hampshire and South Carolina virtually, but I'm not counting them. I have to go to those states. My goal when I started was definitely to speak in every state. And I really think it's a couple things.
Okay.
First of all, it's talking about surviving and thriving. And I mentioned this in my program. I say survival is too often our default, where thriving is not circumstantial. It's a choice. So when you're going through something and you have to survive it, it's how you look at it and how you continue to go forward, because anger is not going to get us anywhere. And the things that we learn the most about ourselves is struggles. How do we get through those struggles? And struggles actually make us stronger if we continue. And I think another thing with my program is my vulnerability. I started speaking about my childhood. I had a real hard childhood. I grew up in an abusive family. And I thought about that as I was playing the game of Survivor. How my mom didn't just survive, she thrived. She had 3 children. She worked 3 jobs. She worked so hard. And I knew as a child, I struggled a lot. Even at my young adulthood, I struggled. And it was just because I always felt sorry for myself. When something would happen, I would be like, oh, that was because of my childhood. We can't think like that. We need to take those lessons, and we need to take that adversity and take it towards our strength. So I think those are a couple things. People love to hear stories. I'm human. I have a story. We all have a story to tell.
Yeah, I think that's where we really come in alignment too, as stories. I think that's important. When we all take a moment to really learn from someone else, their story, their experience, it just helps us get a better perspective on life and our own life too, in a way.
Yes, that we're not alone.
Yes, absolutely. Now let's talk quickly about your book, Your Winner Within. And I think that's on the same topic, a really important book for today, because it really gives you a lot of resources and tools to, in any area of your life, really succeed and give it your best. So talk about the book, like what inspired you to write it?
In my program, I have 6 words, and I call them my 6 words to survival: faith, attitude, determination, confidence, desire, and perseverance. So what I did is I took those 6 words and I related them back to stories of my personal life, stories from my children. And I really wanted to give people a tool after I spoke. I didn't want to write my book about my speech, because I was like, no, they just heard my speech, but I want them to take something from my program and leave and read more and say, oh my goodness, that happened to her, or I really needed to hear this. And I didn't have a book, first 4 or 5 years I spoke. And then I was like, you know what? And I didn't want a long book. I wanted something that I could give to junior high kids, to middle school students, to healthcare workers, to bankers, to credit unions, something that was broad and that everyone could use. So for me, it was really just a tool to give them something, an easy read. You can read it in 1 or 2 days, and just some more inspiration to take along with them.
And it's jam-packed. It's right to the point, and it's all the tools, practical tools that anyone could use, like you said. One part of the book I really liked was the big picture, right? Remembering the big picture. And for me, that's always been important. When you're struggling, when you're on your lowest of the low sometimes, and you're having a hard day or things don't seem to work out just right, having that bigger picture in mind has always seemed to be what keeps me going.
Yes.
Yeah. So what keeps Holly going? What keeps Holly motivated?
Yeah, the people. It's totally people. And yes, I get tired. I get tired traveling. I get tired of being in hotels. But it's really the people that I meet. There are some times where I am getting ready and I'm exhausted, and I think, okay, I can do this. And then I get on stage and I see people smiling and I see people's emotions, and I'm like, now I know why I do this. And then I get off the stage and I have people come up and talk to me, and I'm able to ask them questions. I have made lifelong friends through speaking. Wow. And plus my family supports me. They really, really do. I get a lot of support from my family, and Mom, where are you at now? Where are you traveling to? And I know they keep saying, you need to slow down a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? There's going to be a time where I can't do this anymore. So while I can, I feel that I need to. And I'm a true believer that everything happens for a reason. And this is the reason I was put on Survivor, for me to share my story about resilience and vulnerability. And that's why I feel like I do what I do.
Well, you sure did. And I know, speaking for me and a lot of South Dakotans, you made us all proud. You went out there, you did a strong run, you stuck it through, you finished strong. And, you really have now this purpose. You have this purpose of what you're doing and what you're after. I think that makes all the difference. And so a huge, huge thank you. So any final thoughts, any final word to the audience today?
Well, let's talk about your book.
Okay. Yeah.
I was very honored to be a part of your book. And like I had about 6 or 7 copies in my office, and they're already gone.
Yes.
So I was extremely honored to be a part of your book.
Well,
and when I read your book, it was very inspiring to me. It was and I hope you put a link on at the end of your program today, because I really felt like I can read my books, I can sell my books, but until you have somebody else's book in your hand, I love the color of your book, I love the texture of your book, and joining other authors, it was a huge honor for me. It really was, that you asked me. When I looked up some of these authors, I was like, oh my goodness. So please feel free to, put that link up, because it is a fantastic book. It's very inspiring.
Well, thank you so much. And, that's what it's all about. Like what you're doing, what we're doing, it's the stories, and,
Correct.
Being a part of this book here, which here's the book, by the way, right
there
here.
It is, Mindship,
yes. Again, like you mentioned, everyone in this book has a story, a different story.
Everyone. Mm-hmm.
And it's, that's what I want to do, is just bring the stories together to provide inspiration for other people. I think that's what we're both trying to do.
Because everybody has a story, and through the book, you could see everyone's perspective through their own eyes and their stories.
Yes.
So it was very good.
Yes, absolutely. Your contributions in the book were awesome, with a lot of great feedback on the book. The other one that I liked was Smile. And it's so simple, but it's such a, such a profound thing when you can offer a smile to someone, because you never know what that could do.
Absolutely. In fact, just last week I was at the grocery store and I shared a smile with a lady and I said, good morning. And she stopped and she turned around and she said, I really needed that. And it's just a simple smile. I talk about that in my leadership program. It's those 1 second opportunities that can totally make somebody else's day, opening the door for someone, giving someone a compliment. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, something as simple as a smile. So,
yes.
Truly amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Holly. I'll make sure to leave links in the description where people can find more about you, the books that we talked about, and everything else. So Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you. The honor's mine. Thank you so very much for having me.
Again, a big thank you for listening to today's conversation. I really hope you enjoyed it. And a special thank you to Holly Hoffman for being a guest on the show today. I will leave all the links in the podcast description to learn more about Holly, what she's doing to inspire and motivate people, and to the book that her and I co-wrote together called Mindshift 2022. That's going to do it for today's episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts to stay tuned for the next show. And I'll catch you next time on the next Table Talks.